Hello, it's Martin and I'm in my company car, the Mini Electric, specifically the Level 3, which is the highest specification and includes the adaptive matrix LED headlights. I had a quick browse through YouTube and I haven't seen any video showing how they perform in the real world, so I thought I would film this one so you can see whether to go for them, especially if you drive a lot at night, or whether you can settle for the lower trim levels. Let's get going then. Lovely charge here at this Osprey station with the Kempower chargers. Always love a bit of Kempower. So just to explain what's happening, I will drive on a mixture of roads so you can see how the headlights behave in different conditions. It's also raining, which does complicate things further, but it will be a nice challenge. The standard headlight controls, which are by my right knee, are in automatic as usual. And to activate the matrix functionality on the left stalk, so the indicator stalk, the end of it is split into two sections. So I will press the bottom one, which activates the matrix lights. You see that's indicated by a green high beam symbol with an A in the instrument cluster. So that means that the high beam is in standby, and the moment any section of the high beam is activated, you see like now, you will get a blue high beam symbol as well. We've got some dense traffic here, so even though it's quite dark, we still have too many cars for the high beam to activate, and the car seems to only favor turning on the high beam when there's no street lighting anyways, probably to better detect the oncoming vehicles. This is a good point to mention. If you do not know what matrix lights are, it's basically a technology where the main beam is split into different segments, and those can be controlled individually. There is a camera at the top of the windscreen which looks at the road ahead, and it only turns off specific segments of the beam to not dazzle other drivers. So the idea is that you get maximum possible illumination without endangering others. I do have a route set in the navigation system which will hopefully take us on less busy roads, but you see even now, for a split second in that gap on the left, the Mini illuminated the side of the road, and it's doing that as well now. So the left section of the high beam is active. I hope it comes across on camera though. Is it really necessary? Well, not really. We managed without this for decades. But if there was an animal, for example, hiding in the bushes, I would definitely spot it earlier and would therefore have more time to react. Here we have some typical British country lanes. So a single lane going each way, about 40 miles per hour, and they are surrounded by kind of trees and hedges. Keep in mind the high beam is still in the standby mode, and since I got onto this road they haven't activated once. And now I would personally like, for example, the left side to activate. There's no reason for it not to, but it's not very keen at the moment. So as we are going through the village at 30 miles per hour, number one, I think the speed is too low, and number two, there are street lights. So the Mini is selecting dipped beam for now. And now we have a train of traffic ahead of us and no other lighting. So I would like to see some high beam action. And there is nothing. Now we are entering a national speed limit section, high beam is on, and the car decided to go for a fully dipped beam, even though I would like to see the left side of the road here. Oh, this was a stupid idea, because it literally appeared as if I was flashing the vehicle ahead of me. The car opposite of me did not bother turning down the high beam, so I got blinded there for a second. But let's see. Come on. The system usually takes quite a while to recognize what's happening, and you can see it here. So it's quite late to switch to high beam. It seems to be pretty good at switching to dipped beam if it detects any kind of light fairly quickly, especially on straight sections of the road where it can see the traffic well in advance. Another section away from civilization here, and even though I would love to have the left side, which is my side of the road, illuminated, the car is not doing anything. So it seems to be deciding between full beam or low beam and nothing in between. If you're wondering whether yes, This car definitely has the matrix lights. We've already seen it at the beginning of the video that there was a split second where it did just turn on a section of the beam. But now it's clearly not having it. These are the types of roads we have quite commonly here in the UK, these kind of single track back roads. And they can be quite challenging to drive on with a lot of potholes like you see here. And this is where I would really appreciate some assistance from the lights, but it's absolutely pointless. As soon as I reach about 25-30 miles per hour, they do switch into the high beam mode, but there is not enough matrix action happening. The high beam spread is good. You can see that the light uniformity is very good. Here it reacted instantly to the oncoming car. It's a good color temperature, so it looks very close to daylight. And as I turn the steering wheel, the light beam does move a little bit to better illuminate the roads based on the curvature. National speed limit out of the village. And you see, so now finally we do have a little bit of a high beam on the left. The blue icon is illuminated in the dashboard, so I can better see what's hiding in the tall grass here. But the oncoming cars are not blinded, and neither is the van ahead of me. So now for a split second, the car illuminated the right side as well, but then we had more traffic on there. Full beam is on. And only a section was dipped now, and you saw very clearly that it was a hard line about a third on the left. And that's the bit which the system blocked out because of the oncoming traffic. And then as the traffic passes, all of the high beam is activated. Now left side on, right side on as well. Middle bit off. This is the beauty of it. I don't have to do anything. I can just concentrate on the roads, and the car does all the illumination to make sure I see as much as possible. So this is a very clear example of the car creating almost like a tunnel in the middle for the vehicles ahead of me, but the left and the right side are still illuminated. For example, right now you see even the right bushes and the trees are illuminated. Left side very clearly, but there's a block of light which is missing around the preceding vehicle. Interestingly, you see, so the car took a second to realize what was happening. First dipped the beam fully, but then realized, oh, it can keep the left side illuminated. So it did that and now filled in the entire beam. And this is, I would say, the roads where this kind of technology makes the most sense. And you can see just how the light changed there, because it's here where the risk of animals jumping out in front of the car is the greatest. So we want to see as much as possible, even if you have a car in front of you illuminating the area kind of directly in front of them. Now that we saw on how it works on the proper narrow country lanes, I will start heading back to London on the M11 so we can test out the performance on the motorway as well. Let's see, as we get into this 50 mph section, will it do something? It's quite busy, and that's always the hard test for these systems. Will they do the lazy thing and just dip the beam completely, or will they try to mask out the traffic? It's a shame because Mini seems to be quite lazy. For example, the left side could be easily illuminated, but it's deciding not to do that. And likewise, when this Ioniq 5 passes, the right side, I would appreciate if that kind of was lit up too. And only the lorry blocked out in the middle, but it's not doing anything at all. And I'm definitely leaving a sufficient gap. I wouldn't want to end up in the back of a fossil fuel cistern. For example, right now, why is the right lane not lit up? There could be a deer hiding in those trees and I wouldn't know. Come on, little Mini, turn on the high beams. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Not a single segment is lit up. This is a bit disappointing. I don't know whether it's because of the rain and obviously that's causing a little bit of haze on the windscreen, but the windscreen itself is clear. I checked before I set off. The wipers are doing a good job. I can see where I'm going. There's not much fog, and I've seen these lights perform quite well in the fog as well, so that's not an excuse. Yeah, not quite sure. Perhaps it's the glossy road and too much reflection, but it's these difficult conditions where I would want lights like this the most, not when everything is perfect. By the way, yes, the wipers are set to automatic and the highest sensitivity as well, so the car should regulate that on its own to make sure that it sees clearly, just like I do. And now we are cooking. So the left side is on. I can see the hard shoulder clearly. I can see the bushes even further away, no problem. The only drawback is that we are doing 40 miles per hour because there is lots of traffic, and that's the speed limit. But yeah, that left section of the high beam is permanently on. But the moment we slow down too much, it goes into dip beam anyways, but obviously at this point it doesn't really matter because I can see where I'm going clearly. I'm off the M11 now and about to join the M25, which according to the sat-nav should be a bit less congested, but looking at it, I don't think it's much better. And we are into standstill traffic. Great. But even then, you see the Mini is trying, at least illuminating the hard shoulder. Because yes, the moment I move into the middle lane and there's more vehicles directly in front of me, there's nothing to illuminate. Important to mention, obviously, the left side is what I've been commenting on, the left high beam, but it's not trying to trigger the right high beam, which is very important because sometimes, especially on these divided motorways, the system doesn't quite recognize the traffic in the lanes opposite of us, and we think that it's okay to turn on the right headlamp onto full high beam. But obviously that would dazzle other drivers, maybe not necessarily passenger cars, but especially lorry drivers who sit way up above the concrete barrier. I have to be honest, I've been driving it for a few months now, and there have been scenarios on some longer journeys where I had to manually disengage the automatic high beam system because it did try to fire the high beams, but it's few and far between, and it usually has to do with elevation and topography of the route. So if in some scenarios the car doesn't quite correctly recognize that the lights opposite of us are actually vehicles, because it probably thinks it's just some artifacts in the environment. I'm on the A13 now, traffic is dense, there's street lighting, so there will not be much more of the matrix test. But let me get home and we can summarize the findings. Look, only you can decide whether something is worth it to you, but in my eyes, while these headlights are nice to have and definitely an upgrade compared to standard LED headlights, they are not a must-have. As you saw, there are some situations where they work brilliantly and you are just amazed by the technology, but then sometimes where they could actually be helpful, you just have to rely on the standard dipped beam, or you have to manually control the high beam switching if the automatic function is unreliable. I think it's all down to the fact that this camera is not exactly the latest and greatest, so there's only so much it can detect. And secondly, I think there's only about 6 segments per headlight, which is a very low number by modern standards. For example, something like a Polestar 2, I think we are talking about 100 segments in total, and there are cars which go even beyond that with full-on basically black and white projectors. So I would say just manage your expectations. Nice to have, but if you're coming from a Polestar, VW, Volvo, Audi, anything like that, this would be a downgrade, even from a BMW, even though Mini is owned by BMW. This is practically 2 generations behind compared to the latest and greatest on the market. Also, I've never tested them, but I would suspect that the i3 Icon LED headlights, which also offer matrix functionality, will perform very, very similarly to these ones. Thank you very much for watching. Like the video if you enjoyed it and you found it helpful. Let me know in the comments whether you would be keen on these headlights or whether you're not bothered at all. And thank you very much again. See you in the next one.